Cyberia is the UK's first cyber cafe. Over a cappuccino, you can try out surfing the net using one of our 7 computers.
Communication, networking, communication, internet, networking,
Hello, welcome to Cyberia. My name is Eva and I'm one of the numerous inhabitants of the virtual community. I will take you on a wonderful journey along the net, show you the virtual land you are about to join, and explain you how to behave when you finally get here. We will show you the basic steps and all you need to know to find your way around the net. Like all travelers to unknown countries, you will need to know the language, the customs and the culture of people you're about to join. We will take you through the dangerous passage of joining the net, finding the right equipment and finding the best internet provider who could protect you on your journey around the net.
The internet is essentially a network of networks that spans the entire globe. It's hundreds of thousands of computers, databases, information archives and millions of people.
The internet, it's a linking of millions of computers around the world. People sitting in front of computers, which is linked to somebody else's computer, which is linked to somebody else's computer ad infinitum.
Take us into one of the games, Andrew.
Games?
Yes.
Oh, very well.
Would you? Which Andrew?
What we're going to cover over the next hour are the essentials of the internet. How do you use the net? What do you use it for and how do you get on it? We'll also clear up all the jargon from FAQs to URLs. We'll show you how to use email, how to get around the World Wide Web, which is the multimedia access to the net, and what you can find once you're there. We'll look at Usenet news groups and mailing lists. Where are they and how do you join them? Then you'll find out how to search the internet. Use your computer at home to log into a system elsewhere and bring back some files from the depths of cyberspace. Once you've got a feel for the net, we'll talk about the different service providers and what they offer, so you can decide who you want to use as your connection to the internet. In this video, we'll be operating from PC Windows, but any point-and-click system functions more or less the same way. It's also possible to use command-line software similar to DOS. The internet is essentially connecting computers by telephone. They communicate with each other over the line the same way you would.
In terms of the internet itself, an important question is what is it? It's actually a network of networks. You've got about 35,000 networks worldwide that are all linked by what is a common protocol. What that really means is that they exchange information in a way that each network can understand. So really it's just an open system, it's like a phone system that's connected. So they may be individual networks that have different quirks, but they all communicate openly.
You make a local phone call in this country, but you're actually talking directly to computers all over the world.
Everyone has a different idea of what the internet is.
The internet is, by its very nature, almost a sort of perfect anarchic system. It's like anarchy in action.
It's not an object. You can't put your finger on it and say that is the internet. The internet is just a big network, just a connection of all the machines in the world.
You can actually make friends with people over the net, and I do have friends that I've met over the net, and we go to concerts and we go down the pub. But I met them through communicating with them by email.
At the moment, I think perhaps it is a little bit perhaps entertainment orientated. There's a lot of stuff that is just taking up a lot of space and it doesn't really have a lot of say educational or that kind of use or merit.
Nobody controls the internet. It's a system that works because everyone pitches their little bit of the system in.
It's a cooperative thing. It isn't something that you can, like say, put your finger on.
We're not all just people in anoraks in our sort of like darkened bedrooms in the middle of the night typing on a keyboard. We do actually see each other and have real lives as well.
So what sort of people use the internet and why?
Well, I run a business which is a health and fitness centre in North London, and I do my own marketing and promotions. And on the internet, there's various ideas you can pick up for marketing and advertising. And my idea is to go on the net, so therefore I can put on a notice board or billboard and see who can have any ideas towards that.
Our regular academics here that would normally, their nearest access to a computer is maybe using, I don't know, just to type documents, a word processor. I mean, those sort of people are actively being linked into the net and are now using it because it is useful to them and for no other reason. And they're definitely not computer hackers or computer whiz kids or, you know, they're Macintosh vegetables.
Being in architecture, I use AutoCAD a lot, and there's a lot of pre-made stuff that saves me a lot of time. If I can find things on the internet to download, rather than having to create them from scratch myself, it's very, very helpful.
I have it at the back of my mind to actually transmit examples of my work over the modem to different interested parties.
I'm interested in family history, genealogy, medieval history, social history. And I wanted to see if it's worthwhile getting a package so that I can sit at home and browse, but it's fun coming here.
I use the internet for accessing other people's work across the world and for accessing other pieces of software and for playing games, of course.
Until now, we were looking at the information presented mainly in the forms of text. Well, this is not as good as it gets. Now we can move to the latest cutting-edge technology, which presents the information in the form of multimedia, which means you can have pictures, sounds, graphic, even little video clips.
What the World Wide Web brings is a multimedia, page layout, type for a page. It's like desktop publishing for the internet.
And things like the web, it's a very easy introduction to people. I mean, I've started off people that have never been anywhere near a network at all, and I just sort of sat them down and said, you know how to use Windows Help System, don't you? Yes. Well, great. You see those little words that are highlighted? Just point, click on them, and you follow the links, and off you go. And that's it. Just sort of let them sat there for an hour and a half, and I'll come back and go, oh, it's really great. Oh, we found all these things in the States. Oh, great.
It's more or less a massive collection of information on just about any kind of subject you can imagine, from, say, for example, music to the NASA space administration have pages on the web.
But it's a much more user-friendly and interactive way of using the internet than just the straight text screens that people are used to seeing.
To use the web, you need a piece of software called a browser. Here we're using Netscape, which looks the same whether you're using a Mac, PC or some other platform. Mosaic is another popular browser.
I'm using browsers like Mosaic. It's a very simple interface to a lot of information out there. Again, there's, like Jim said, there's a lot. It's free. It's free.
Quite a lot of software on the net is free at the moment, including Mosaic and Netscape. But if you're using the software for commercial purposes, the situation may be quite different.
Information in multimedia format comes in the form of pages. So you can see little graphics and text. And the way you move around the web, you simply point and click. You point on everything what is marked in blue. So it could be a graphic or it could be a text. And as long as you click on it, that will take you to further information on the same topic.
Ewan Wilmot from Internet Publishing produces a free magazine called PowerPC with a circulation of 45,000. It doesn't get printed in the usual way. Instead, it's published over the internet. The latest editions are emailed to subscribers, and PowerPC also has pages on the web so that prospective readers can have a look.
This is a homepage we're looking at. Every organisation on the web will have one of these. It's really a way of welcoming people into your site, letting them know what you're doing. So as you scroll down the site, it gives you various options, a bit of background on who we are, how can I sign up for the email edition. Click on that, up comes the opportunity to go ahead and do that. So you could go ahead and just type in your information. If you hit submit there, that will be put onto our list and you'd be a subscriber. So if we just go ahead and clear that, head on down, there's the home page icon, you hit that and off you go back to the home page. You'll see the stuff scrolling in there. Okay, so after you've gone ahead and subscribed, you can look down here and there's the various options that we have available to you to either look at the current issue, you can look at back issues, you can do a keyword search if you're looking for specific information, or you can look at our online bookstore. Also, as I'm looking at various options here, you'll see you have a bar at the bottom there that tells you specifically what you're looking at.
When you click on the icons or text, you will be taken to another page or possibly another computer on the other side of the world. The text at the bottom is the address you're going to. Looking at another web page, at the top it gives you its address, called a URL or Universal Resource Locator. It's made up of several parts. The first part, HTTP, indicates that the document contains hypertext which hot links to other sites. This could read FTP or Gopher instead. The second part, wings.buffalo.edu, is the name of the computer where this page is stored. The .edu indicates that it's an American educational establishment. Contest and awards are directories on that computer, and index.html is the name of this page. HTM or HTML once again indicates that it's a hypertext document.
Other useful things are file. When you open location, that means that you can type the address of a page which you want to go to. For example, you know, a friend of yours has constructed a new page and he will email you the address of that page. So you can just type it in, then press open, and that will take you directly to the location.
Alternatively, you can just type your new destination address in the box at the top of the page. Highlight the part you want to replace. It says location on the left, but when you press delete, the words change to go to. Type in the new address, press enter, and away you go.
Just very briefly, I wanted to show you what other things we can have on the web. There is a very good guide to the UK. It's basically a sensitive map, which means if you click on any point on that map, that will take you to further information about that particular site. And it's really useful. I was in Brighton last week, and that helped me sort out my accommodation in no time at all.
Typing in URLs can be quite fiddly. If you've been to a page already, there is a useful shortcut.
Bookmarks are useful, so when you are surfing on the net and you come across some fascinating locations and you don't really want to write notes, you can just add bookmark, which means that every time you want to go back there, that will be in your hot list file.
So to return to the NASA page, we would click on Bookmarks and then click on NASA at the bottom. The computer will jump straight to that page.
I'm taking you now on a little journey to our home pages. Cyberia home pages have been developed to document what are we doing at Cyberia, what kind of information could be available here. For example, last Friday we had a band playing here, and that band has been recorded on the tape, and we wanted everybody of the whole world to participate in our little event in the virtual cafe. So we included the music in the body of the pages, and if you click on the title of the music the band was playing, it will come as a full record. And I'm very glad to underline full record, because most of companies do only little samples of around 30 seconds. But we thought it would be nice to give people the opportunity to participate in the whole event.
This is Devil's Weight.
line speeds that the data is communicated to your computer is quite slow. It takes quite a while. You can only have small video clips and bits of sound and things like that.
At Imperial College, the chemistry department's homepage includes an animation of a molecule. It appears on the screen very quickly, because universities often have very high-speed connections.
I'm going to bring over an animation now, just to show it's possible, really. Okay, so that's some kind of rotating molecule. You notice it's grabbed all the colour map, and so the rest of the screen has gone a strange colour.
If you're keen on graphics, the World Wide Web won't disappoint you. Here's a page of fractals. You can see two small squares which look like an artist's palette. You'll get an icon like that if your computer doesn't receive a picture properly. When we click on one of the fractals, a full-size picture is transferred to our computer. The transfer takes several minutes, and you can see the progress at the bottom of the page. When it's complete, a little program pops up automatically and displays the picture. If you want to keep it, you'll need to save it.
Way to find things. The only problem with it is that it's very haphazard, and it just depends who's put what on there, who's put what pages on there.
In the past, the web may have appeared chaotic, but there are a number of excellent search tools which are now available to Internet users. A good place to start is the Virtual Library, which is a subject listing of pages on the web. Click on the subject to get more information. Alternatively, your browser may have a button to start you on your way.
One of the useful searches on the net is called AliWeb, and that allows you to search for not only one word, but you can compose searches of 2 or 3 words, which is very useful if you are looking for something extremely specific. So I'm going to multiple keyword form, and I'm looking for health and breast cancer. And you click on submit, and that sends the topic for processing, for the information to come to you.
Another useful search tool is called Yahoo.
Okay, we can use this to search for interesting documents using keywords. So in this example, I'm going to type in Star Trek and see what it finds. What I wanted to look at was what I thought was quite funny. Someone's actually create a catalogue of all the different classes of Star Trek ships, and this is that page. I'll bring back one of the catalogues. Let's bring back the Federation Starfleet catalogue. Okay, so is that the Enterprise? Something like it, isn't it? And so someone's actually gone through all the episodes and all the films, noting down whenever anybody ever mentioned some kind of ship.
There are a few other useful points to note about the software. Back takes you to the previous page you looked at. Home takes you to your home page. If it's set to Netscape's or Mosaic's home page in the US, it won't cost you any extra, but it will clog up the lines when transferring the pages. The Help menu may seem obvious, but when you click on any part of it, the program fetches the help file from the States. That may take some time, and if the US computer is busy, it's very inconvenient. It's a good idea to load the help file you want, and then save it by going to the File menu. The saved file doesn't include the pictures. Once it is saved, you can open it whenever you like. You can see there is an open file command on the third line down.
To get connected to the internet, you need three things. The first is you need a computer, second thing you need is a modem, and the third thing you need will be a gateway to an internet access provider.
It doesn't matter really how powerful your machine is, because this isn't very high overhead software. It's not like the huge bloated word processors or spreadsheets or other pieces of software that we're seeing these days. This is neat, tight little piece of software which will run, versions of which you'll find to run on just about any machine you have.
A modem is a device which enables you to telephone to an access provider.
People sometimes think that if they're using an individual bulletin board or commercial service, that they are accessing the internet, but there is a difference.
If you use a bulletin board, you dial up and you go onto that environment, and however good and however interesting the bulletin board is, and a lot of them are very interesting, it's a closed and finite environment. It may be networked to other bulletin boards, but it's essentially closed. When you go onto the internet, you go from site to site. There are no limitations. It's like thousands, hundreds of thousands of bulletin boards and other resources all joined together, and you just hop from one to the other and zoom around.
In order to connect with the internet, your bulletin board or commercial service provider needs to have a gateway or link to the rest of the internet. So there are three main types of service providers. Firstly, access via an account with a commercial online service, for example Kix, Delphi or CompuServe. Secondly, a dial-up direct connection with a service provider like Daemon or EasyNet. Or thirdly, email-only access, either through a bulletin board or the WinNet service offered by the PC user group. The Staffels have been connected to a commercial service called CompuServe since September 1994. They mainly use CompuServe's own forums or discussion groups, but Andrew, 13, has been dialing into bulletin boards outside CompuServe, including one which involves a role-playing game. CompuServe doesn't provide full access to the rest of the internet. At the moment, you can only use email or Usenet to communicate with people who don't have a CompuServe account.
I mean, before we had this, I'd never used a computer at all. And within a week, I was able to work my way around it quite well.
Kix is a system that's based in the UK, and it's a nationwide UK bulletin board, and it's charged on a per minute basis with a minimum monthly fee. You charge for how long you're connected to the system. Minimum is about £7.50 a month.
second type of access provider is a company that provides a direct connection to the internet. This is probably the best option if you want to use a fully graphical web browser as shown here. There are several factors to consider when choosing a provider. The first is the location of the number that you're going to dial into. This is called a point of presence or POP.
We provide points of presence all over the country to enable you to choose which point of presence you wish to connect to. This has the advantage that firstly you can hopefully make local phone calls, not long distance, and secondly, if you travel, you can choose another of our points of presence.
The main cost you're going to have is going to be your telephone calls, so find a provider who's got a dialing point closest to you.
The charges involved in signing up with an internet access provider revolve around the initial fixed cost and then the monthly cost.
You should ask some questions of your providers. How many modems have they got on average, and what's their user to modem ratio? Do they have any guarantees of how high their user to modem ratios will go?
Can you get onto the point of presence that you want to use at no extra cost when you want to use it? Ask for the phone number, it's probably in the information pack you get sent. Dial it. If you get engaged, redial it. If it's engaged 5 times, phone up and say what's going on. Could be that the service is down or something, but do some investigations beforehand.
How much support does your provider give you? Are they there 24 hours a day, or are they there 9 to 5? Do they take lunch breaks? Because I can tell you from experience that there is a provider that doesn't provide support during lunchtime.
In this program, we've demonstrated various software packages. We strongly recommend that you don't buy any software before you join the internet.
You use various different pieces of software to cruise the internet for different purposes. At first it seems a bit confusing, but actually it's quite straightforward. All the software that you need to cruise the internet is available for free and from the internet. When you buy a service account, you will get a bunch of software to get you started, but you'll find that on the internet everything you ever wanted is freely available out there, and it's very, very good software as well.
If you want to find out more about the internet, there are several helpful magazines and books available.
Well, we were talking about email, about Usenet groups, about telnetting, and you're probably frightened that internet is very difficult. Well, internet does have a steep learning curve, but you have to remember that this is worth it. Because when you join and when you know how to do it, then you can be part of a wonderful community. And if you get messages like error or socket out or something like that, don't worry. It's not your fault. It's just this is a live system. You are working on live telephone cables. So occasionally here, there, you won't be able to get where you want to be. But this is not your problem. It's the problem of the connections, which I hope will get better and better. So thank you very much for being with us, and thank you very much for learning, and I hope you will join us online very soon.
FTP is File Transfer Protocol. It's a method of moving files from one machine to another. Basically, it consists of connecting the machine that you're using to a foreign machine and then either uploading or downloading files.
If you wish to retrieve files from the internet, you would download them. You connect to a server, you select your files, and you download them from there through your modem to your computer.
To transfer files, you can use a separate FTP program. Double-click on the icon to start the program. On the left-hand side of the table, you'll see the directory structure and files on your own computer. The right-hand side contains the directories of the remote site. We're going to have another go at downloading the EFF net guide, and we know exactly where to find the file. Click on Connect and type in the host name. In this case, FTP needs to be at the beginning of the host name, but it's not always necessary. In the user box, you put either anonymous or FTP. You don't have to enter a password, but it's conventional to put your email address. Anonymous FTP sites are basically those which are open to the general public. Once you're connected, some feedback will appear at the top of the box, and the directories appear on the right-hand side. We double-click on the pub or public directory, then netinfo, then EFF net guide. You may have to explore the directories a bit to find out what you're looking for. If you click on the two dots at the top of the list, this will take you one step back. You have a choice of files. You can highlight a file, then click on Info to find out how large it is. This may help you to decide whether you want to download it. This is a text file, so I click on ASCII. If I was transferring a program, I would use binary. You click on the file you want to transfer. We then click on Copy and the file transfer starts. After a few minutes, the transfer completes and we disconnect. If we want to read the text file, we go into Write, a built-in Windows application. We then open the file netguide EFF. There's no need to convert the file, and it's then brought up on screen. You can read it or print it and then exit. Martin Hampson of Imperial College looks at other ways of using the Internet.
Another use of it is Usenet News, which is a little like email, but it's instead of sent to a particular person, you send to the whole world. So it's like a distribution mechanism.
Usenet, or the news as it's known, is often called a bulletin board on the internet, although strictly it isn't. But Usenet is a subject-divided discussion areas. If you want to read the sex groups there in Usenet, and they're good fun and they're very interesting.
All the sex bondage is not really my interest.
there's discussion groups about the particular computer that I have. You can talk about everything from religion to philosophy to cult TV programs and films. You can even pick up recipes and needlework patterns if you wanted to on the net.
To access the Usenet groups, you may be able to use your World Wide Web browser, but here we will demonstrate a separate piece of news reading software. When you click on the news icon, the program starts and you get a menu of the groups you are already subscribed to. To subscribe to other news groups, you go into the Groups menu, click on Subscribe and choose the groups you're interested in. News.announce.new users contains several useful articles about how Usenet works. Once you've subscribed to and highlighted the group, you press the List button and your computer fetches a list of the recent articles. Sometimes you can choose the maximum number of articles you want to see. When you scroll down the list, you can see there are several articles explaining the workings of Usenet News. The figure on the left indicates the size of the article. A figure over 100 means the article is quite long. Click on any article you're interested in and your computer will fetch it. You can read articles online or save any interesting articles onto your computer's hard disk by clicking on the Archive button in the bottom left-hand corner. Here's an example of some articles we archived earlier. To look at an article, just double-click on it. As you can see, this is an extremely useful article describing all the Usenet groups. You can find the article in news.lists. Generally, people only subscribe to a few news groups because there is so much information. Your service provider or university will usually have many of the latest articles stored on their computer, so you're simply accessing their computer.
If you're new to a news group and ask a blatantly obvious question, don't be offended if someone tells you to go and read the FAQ. They're not swearing at you, they actually mean go and read the frequently asked questions list. Quite often they may also add that you may go an RTFM, which means read the fine manual.
Okay, you've seen a little bit of Usenet groups, and you have to remember that each of these Usenet groups have been going on for a while. So, as in each little community, these cultures have developed their own rules and their own customs, and the good thing to do is to lurk for a while, not to join in before you know what's going on. Lurking is just watching, absorbing the culture, developing understanding of what people are talking about and the language they are using. Otherwise, you are very likely to encounter flames. Flaming is a violent expression of disapproval or outburst of emotions, very often without you actually causing it. People are just very sensitive on the Usenet groups, and you have to be very careful about it.
Flaming is attacking people on the net, basically. It's if someone asks a stupid question, if someone comes back and patiently explains that it's a bit of a dumb question and here's the answer, that's one thing. But sometimes people will flame them. It might be because you disagree with an opinion that someone said, or it might be because you're an irascible person that doesn't like it when people ask dumb questions. But if you not verbally, but textually attack somebody on the net, then that's flaming them, and people can get quite irate, and a flame war will develop.
You do anything wrong in a news group and you'll hear from 50 people. It's quite bizarre because there's this whole sort of kinship you have when you're on the net that you always return your email, you do all this sort of stuff, so it's a really nice family thing. However, if you step over the line, the vehemency of the mail you can get back is unbelievable. These people get very, very unpleasant. Someone was saying in the press that they sort of grow long nails and turn into werewolves, and back comes this mail that is just awful.
So there is in fact a news group dedicated to flames, so quite often when there is a flame war, as it is going on between a pair of people or a group of people within a news group, quite often someone will just sort of turn around and say, take this to alt.flame, and this is, like I say, it's a news group specifically for exchanging flames. This post to the alt.flame news group is following up from someone who seems to have proposed a new news group entitled alt.nuke Canada. This has raised some emotions, obviously said with tongue-in-cheek, I hope.
First of all, there is electronic mail. This is the method of sending letters electronically to anyone on the internet. All you need is a software package sitting on your computer and your own electronic mail address.
You get your own email address when you first join the internet. You choose the first part of the address, in this case, purple tea. The second part of the name, which comes after the @ is the name of your domain. That could be your service provider such as Dircon, Demon or EasyNet. It could be the company you work for or your university. Outside the US, CO indicates commercial access. AC means academic. For countries outside the US, the address has a suffix like UK. Australia uses AU and Germany uses DE. This address means that you can communicate with people worldwide. For the cost of the call to your local provider, you can contact someone in Australia or Antarctica, provided they too are connected to the net.
We just got here a few days ago, and right now I'm emailing to people back in Canada.
My brother at Bradford, we talk on email more than we do on the phone, you know, because it's cheaper, obviously.
Back at Cyberia, Elizabeth will demonstrate electronic mail in action.
Email is a very easy program to use. I just click on our email button. It asks me for my username. Click OK, and I'm presented with my mail window. I want to read my new mail, so I choose File, Read New Mail. I have something about Darkwing Duck and chipmunks. I have no idea what this might be. It's sent to me by a friend. So I'm going to have a look at it. It's a picture of Darkwing Duck. It's pretty silly. I'm going to reply. I click the reply button to reply, and it gives me an options window. Asks me whether I want to include the original message in reply. I don't. I just click OK and send it back. That was a very silly message. P.S. I'll be able to meet you tomorrow afternoon, because I'm not going to see this person again until then, and I know that they're on their email now because I just received a message from them. And then I just move over here and I click the send button. It gives me a little window that shows me that it's sent.
Email works in a similar way to an answering machine. The person you're sending mail to doesn't have to be connected at that time. They can collect their mail when they next connect to the internet, whether it's within 5 minutes or 5 days. Elizabeth is using one particular email software package, but the window for sending a message is fairly standardized across all packages and types of computers. The From box contains your own email address. Most software will fill this in automatically after you've used it once. There will always be a box for the email address of the person you're mailing to, a subject box, and an area for you to type the message in. While this particular message is being typed, the computer is not connected by phone. This is called preparing a message offline. When I press the send button, the message disappears, but it's actually been put in an outbox. Once I reconnect, called going online, I can send the message from the outbox. Preparing and reading messages offline saves a lot of money.
It's a hell of a lot cheaper. What you do is you load the person's message to you onto your computer. It takes a few seconds to download it onto your machine. You can sit there and type a reply, and their message will have several different points in it, and you copy those into your reply, answer them individually under each little bit of text. Then you can keep several different threads of a conversation going, and then it takes just a few seconds to load that message from your machine onto the net and download onto there. So you can have quite a long discourse, and it only takes seconds of phone time.
Another useful feature of most email packages is the signature block. This isn't a handwritten signature, it's a block of typewritten text giving your details, or it could even be a picture made out of letters.
Okay, and there you see it's appended my signature block. It's a 5-line signature block. Sometimes people would just have 2 lines for their details, and then they'd put a little advertising sales message. I prefer not to advertise at all on the net.
The little chunk at the bottom is someone's signature, which is simply a file that is stuck to the bottom of every email or newsgroup post that they send out to the world.
Another way of personalizing messages is by using smileys.
It's a way of livening up and personalising your messages, because text can be quite dry. If you put a colon on the screen and you can put a closed bracket next to it, if you try and imagine what that would look like, turn it on its side, you've got a smiley face. And it's a way of taking the sting out of a sarcastic comment, or a way of showing that you're laughing at someone's jokes. You can do all sorts of little faces. If you use a semicolon instead of a colon, you get, and turn that on its side, you get a smiley face that looks like it's winking.
There are many variations on this, including the sunglasses smiley. Or if you're perhaps not feeling so happy today, or perhaps worried. There are many, many thousands of these. It's just a matter of choosing the right one for the occasion.
In the same way that a telephone can be bugged, electronic mail can be intercepted.
Data that goes over the internet is mostly free text at the moment. However, there's a possibility to encrypt that data. What that means is jumbling it up in such a way that the only people who can decipher it are the two ends that are meant to be speaking to one another. Right? So that means that even if someone captures your data as it goes over the wire, there's no way for them to understand what's actually going on.
The other major issue for all companies, whether they be publishers or businesses, is taking credit card transactions online. Is vital to all of us from the standpoint of being able to take small tickets from $10 up or £10 up, and it has to be secure. It has to be secure not just for the actual reason that you don't want people hacking in and getting credit card information, but it has to be secure from the standpoint of the user being comfortable that they are doing a transaction with someone that isn't going to involve them in any risk. So there is an encryption system in place that will be available from December of 1994, so that whole area has been taken care of.
Something like 70% of all activity on the internet is electronic mail, and that's going to be like that for a long time, in my opinion.
Many internet users prefer to use electronic mail and refer to the normal mail as snail mail.
It's easier than actually sending mail. It's the 90s. People don't use mail anymore.
Mailing lists are very much like Usenet news groups, but rather than having to go away and actually read the news, what happens is that the articles that are posted to this particular list are sent directly to your electronic mailbox. You tend to find that mailing lists are very much more specific in their subject orientation and appeal to a much narrower band of people.
The news groups seem to me to be a bit on the loony side still, not really serious, but the most of the listserv groups are pretty interesting.
Listservs are just a technical term that are used to describe the computers that manage mailing lists in terms of managing the subscription and distribution of articles.
So how do you subscribe to a mailing list? Mailing lists all work through electronic mail. Once you've started the program, you want to create a message. First, fill in the address of the computer you're sending the request to. Type subscribe, the name of the list. You may find this particular list useful. And then type your email address. You can enter a subject heading, but sometimes it's not needed, and send the message. The exact commands may differ from one list to the next. You can find a listing and description of all the mailing lists in the Usenet newsgroup news.lists.
Other ways of communicating with people on the net are bulletin boards. There is about 30,000 bulletin boards on the world, and only 10% of them will be on internet. So if you use the ones which are on internet, you will have to use Telnet.
Telnet is another way of accessing a remote site. You can log on to a remote computer and it's as if you're on the site accessing it.
The most common kind of person who comes in is the American student who's got an account on a university in the States someplace. And with Telnet, they can log in as if they were at their university, even though they're 5,000 to 6,000 miles away.
The main advantage of Telnet is that you can access worldwide computers or bulletin boards, but you're only paying for the cost of the call to your local service provider. You do need a piece of Telnet software. We are now going to connect to a site called eNews, which has an electronic newsstand. Once the connection is made, a login prompt will appear. Here we type eNews, but in many cases you would type guest for the login and password. We are now connected to the computer and we are presented with a menu. We want to go to the bottom of the menu to search for some articles about the internet, so we arrow down and press enter. Telnet can sometimes be very slow. Eventually a box appears and we type internet and press enter. After a while, a list of articles appears. We select the fourth one down and an article is displayed. We don't want to read it right now, so we type Q to quit. It then asks if we want the article sent via email. We do, so we type M. The computer then prompts you for an email address. Type the email address, press enter, and the article should be in the email box shortly.
There are some machines you can Telnet to that allow guests. They're called guests. They usually log in as a guest or anonymous. And then there are the other ones which are very account specific and you need an account to be able to log in.
And if you start Telnetting to people's machines and you haven't got an account, they may track you down and ask you why you're doing that, because that kind of people who are trying to crack into systems may well use Telnet to get a user prompt up and then try to hack into their system. So people are a bit wary. If people see you doing that, they'll try and contact you and find out why you've done that.
We've covered searching the World Wide Web. But if you're looking for documents or software, you can use other kinds of searches like Gopher or Archie.
Gopher is, again, it's something that predates the World Wide Web in the sense that it is an indexing of the information that's out there. It's just another way of looking at it.
Another way of searching for the same information.
Here we're going to demonstrate how to use Gopher software to search for a useful manual called the EFF Guide to the Internet. It used to be called the Big Dummies Guide. We want to search Gopher space, so we click on it and it takes us to another menu. With the options on this menu, we can either search for documents on this particular computer at Imperial College, or we can search for documents on computers all round the world using Veronica. We opt for Veronica, and that brings us yet another menu. Here you can see Veronica operates at the 7 sites listed. You have the option to search for titles or directories. There will be many more document titles than computer directories, so directory searches should be faster. We access SUNNet, and the computer asks us for a word or string to search for. Here we enter EFF, and the computer is busy, which happens quite a lot. We'll have another go, and eventually it works. Click on Electronic Frontier Foundation. This takes us to yet another menu showing the directories. Your best bet is to go for the pub or public directory. We are looking for a book, so we'll go into the publications subdirectory. We click on Net Guide and we can see a couple of text files with .txt extensions. We can simply download the file by clicking on it. When it's finished, it will appear using the Notepad application which is built into Windows. You could have a quick look at it, but it is best to save it and then look at the manual or print it once you're disconnected.
Quite often Golf is used for information systems. So using Golf you find a lot more documents about things. Whereas Archie is more aimed at software distribution, so most of the major archives, they have some documentation on them, but a lot of their space is taken up with actual pieces of software. So if you just want to locate a piece of software, your best bet would be to use Archie, type in what you think the file name or some of the characters you think would be in the file name, and see what you get.